Hey everyone. A quick little announcement before starting the video, which should make some people happy. Since a lot of you asked me, I finally launched my Spotify. Several stories are coming to it. There will be audio versions of my already released videos, but also stories that have never been told on the channel. The Spotify link is in a pinned comment below this video. Once again, thank you all for your unwavering support over all these years. I probably tell you this very often, but you really are the best. Now let's move on to the video you've all been waiting for. Who is this person? Jay. I've always had few friends, just enough to count on one hand, and they've stayed the same since my teens. There were 4 of us in total. There was me, Arthur, and Kyle. Then there was this other friend, this friend who was always there with us, who joined us for all our outings, parties, and celebrations. Without exception, if I don't mention her name, it's for a very specific reason. This friend. As strange as it may seem, I don't know who he is. And it was at night, during a particularly strange dream, that I actually woke up. In that dream, I was with all my friends. We were watching some movie on television, and nothing seemed out of the ordinary. I remember looking all around me, because I felt that the atmosphere was strange. Even heavy. My eyes first landed on Kyle, who seemed completely absorbed by the movie. Then I quickly glanced over at Arthur, who was on his cell phone. And it was when I looked over his shoulder, all the way at the end of the couch where we were all sitting, that I saw him. Him, the person, or rather the thing that was at the end of the couch, was staring straight ahead. His face was deformed and twisted in a grotesque way. His eyes were fixed on the wall in front of him. He was perfectly still and even seemed to be smiling. As worry slowly began to take hold of me, I remember asking a question that raised more doubts than it resolved. Who are you? The moment I said that, the room became dark. My friends were frozen in time, as if they had just turned into stone statues. The strange person at the end of the couch then slowly turned their head in my direction. Then I saw their eyes, which also seemed to be randomly placed on their horrible face, staring at mine with an icy intensity. Then, just as I was about to scream in terror, I woke up. That's how it all started. That's how I realized something beyond comprehension. In our childhood group of friends, there was an intruder. He's an intruder. It was him. That dream somehow unlocked something in my mind. I think without it, I would never have realized he existed. You know, it's like if someone asked you to write a play you've known for years, no matter how much you think about it. You force yourself to think about every little detail, but there's always something you'll forget to mention. It could be a picture frame of your mother hanging on the wall, or maybe a jar of pencils and pens placed on the mantelpiece. It's almost impossible to mention everything. You'll inevitably forget something when describing this room. Because usually these are things that have been ingrained in your mind for months or years. They blend into the background, so you see them as part of the whole, not as separate elements. In short, they are also the room. The person I mentioned to you perfectly echoes this. He has always been there, in our group of friends. For as long as I can remember, he was part of the group, he was the group. After I woke up, I tried my best to gather my thoughts, to collect every bit of information about him. But I started to tremble. So much terror seized me when I remembered his horrible face. How could all of this be possible? I clearly didn't know this person. I could never have forgotten such a terrifying face. It wasn't just a few deformities, a birth defect, or scars either. No, it's like everything had been placed at random. His nose, eyes, and mouth were all misaligned, and nothing about him appeared human. Yet, he was one of my friends. I knew perfectly well that I had never seen this thing before. Yet when I thought about how many friends I had, only one number came up. 4, always 4. The 4th one, it was him. He occupied a corner of my memory, but hadn't left any information. He was the picture frame hanging on the wall that I hadn't noticed for years, so I took out my phone and called Kyle. It was around 1 in the morning, but since he's a big gamer, I knew he wouldn't be asleep at that hour. He picked up after barely 2 rings. Hello, let me guess, you just realized you don't have enough players to play Speed Fiction? I saw you install it today. You should hide your activities from your teacher. Kyle, I'm not calling to play. I need to ask you something. Do you have 2 minutes? It's important. After a moment without answering, he said, 2 minutes, but not a second more. While Discord was updating, I'm kidding. Of course I had time for you, buddy. I gathered my thoughts and took a deep breath. I told him, please consider your answer carefully. But when we have our local area network parties, or when we meet up at the bar, how many of us are there? He sighed, then answered, dude, what did you take? Please, Kyle, just give me a number. How many of us are there when we all go out together? 4. There are 4 of us. Jay, why are you asking that? Okay, 4. Tell me everyone's names, please. After that, I'll hang up, and I promise I won't ask you for weird stuff anymore. He gave a little mocking laugh before answering, don't make promises you can't keep. Anyway, so there's you, Jay, there's me, Kyle, then there's Arthur. Kyle, focus. You just named 3 people. Oh damn, wait. You, me, Arthur, and Arthur, you, me. Tell me, Jay, do you want to do something tomorrow night? You can call Arthur and we'll make plans. Something, right? Damn it, Kyle, you only mentioned 3 people, please. Who's the 4th? There was no answer, so I waited a moment for him to pull himself together. As I was about to repeat the question, he said, I'll hang up now, man. I'm not feeling well. Let's call tomorrow to do this. Okay, I called you Arthur before. We'll stay updated. I didn't even have time to protest before he had already hung up. After that call, not only did I get no answers, but I was overwhelmed with even more questions. I didn't know who that thing was, but Kyle seemed to know it existed too. I called Arthur, hoping for answers. After several rings, he finally answered. You could clearly hear on the phone that he wasn't fully awake yet. So, no, it's nothing, Arthur. I'm sorry for calling you at this hour. I know you work tomorrow, but I need to ask a question and want an immediate answer. I promise you'll understand. Then, I heard him sigh. No, not exasperation, but rather relief. After Jay, I freaked out. I thought something had happened to you. Go ahead. What did you want to ask me? You thought it was weird? Briefly, how many are in our friend group? 4. It's been years. So yeah, we've had a few buddies here and there, but nothing to do with the group score. What? Okay, now name everyone's first name. There's a pause. Then he answered, please, Arthur, I assure you it's important. Alright, fine, I'll give you a booster shot, but please go see the doctor first thing tomorrow morning. So, let me introduce myself. Arthur the Wise. I'm friends with Jay, the amnesiac, and also with that idiot Kyle. And the 4th person, Arthur, who is it? It's... The response time had become nearly endless. My ear was so attentive that the slightest sound would have made me jump. Then softly, he finally started speaking again. JG, I have a call from Kyle. I'll get back to you in 2 minutes. Okay, wait, 1 minute, please. But it was too late. Arthur had hung up. I was starting to come up with my first theories at that moment. How was it possible that I had become fully aware of the existence of this being in our group of friends? When I tried to ask Kyle and Arthur who he was, it was like their brains just froze. He would answer completely off topic, totally ignoring the original question, as if the thing was so inconceivable to imagine that it was better to sweep it under the rug. Then, I thought back to my dream. What if that really was the reason for my awakening? I didn't sleep a wink all night. I spent all my time thinking. Anyway, after what I just experienced, it was impossible for me to sleep. The image of the face that entered our group was unforgettable. It haunted me whenever I closed my eyes. The next morning, Kyle called me and told me that the party could be held at his place. So I patiently waited for that evening, telling myself that face to face, he wouldn't be able to avoid my questions. In a corner of my memory, it was clear. All 4 of us will be there. It's a really hard feeling to explain. It's as if it was something obvious, something inevitable. All 4 of us will be there. While I'm almost certain that the thing hiding was never warned about by my friends. How could all of this even be possible? So I patiently waited, coming up with several different theories until I finally saw the fateful hour arrive. Without waiting, I got in the car and immediately went to Kyle's house. Arthur's car is parked in the driveway. As usual, he had arrived early. I parked mine next to his, but before going through the front door, I paused. I paused to think, since two things bothered me. I couldn't just rush in and bombard them with questions. Who knows what consequences that could have, since I'm venturing into completely chaotic territory, anything but rational. I absolutely had to act as if it were just a completely normal evening. I had to act like good old Jay meeting up with his buddies, and that's it. I'll ask questions later, when the situation is more appropriate. But the second thing that was bothering me was harder to contain, more frightening. I was about to see the thing. I felt it was there. My heart started beating so fast that I was almost about to turn around and go back home. Thinking about my friends who didn't notice an intruder in our memories made me clench my fists. I walked in without thinking. With what little courage I had left, I scanned everything around me. Arthur was in the living room, looking outside through the window, a glass in his hand. Kyle, on the other hand, was waiting for him to apparently finish his drink. Since the game they were both playing had been paused, he was sitting on the couch looking impatient. I tried my best to find the intruder around us, but he wasn't there. It was just the three of us. I could describe everything that happened next, but honestly, it was just a normal evening. I almost forgot why I was there. We had a few drinks together, played some video games, and not once did I notice the intruder. It was as if he wasn't there. Then, finally, all together, we went to bed around 2 a.m. Of course, it was hard for me to fall asleep. Being with friends made it easy to forget, but alone, the awful thoughts returned. Where is the intruder who slipped in among us and into our memory? It was when my eyes started to close that I finally got the answers to that question. I jumped up, squinting toward the door. Under it, I could see the alley. I saw two shadows just behind the door. Hesitantly I said, "Yes, Kyle." I immediately straightened up, my heart pounding wildly. My body started trembling with uncontrollable fear. The thing was truly here. Otherwise, it was the scariest and most successful prank Kyle had ever pulled. But just as I was about to answer, whatever was behind the door spoke again. Arthur was sleeping peacefully, not far from me, on the pull-out couch in the guest room. I turned toward him, and I noticed that his eyes were tightly shut. What? What is it? Who are you? The air in the room seemed to be getting colder and colder. I felt a long shiver run through my whole body. I was on the verge of screaming in terror when the thing behind the door answered me, so I turned back to Arthur. And it's as if my hands automatically forced themselves over my mouth. Without that, I surely would have...
Regarde Arthur, ne crie pas, ou je m'occuperai de Kyle.
Arthur was no longer sleeping. His eyes were rolled back, completely white. His mouth was open, giving the impression that he was screaming in pain. I could see thick veins on his forehead, which seemed to throb in time with his heartbeat. I was about to scream. Arthur seemed to be having slight convulsions. His body suddenly started moving back and forth. Then, just as I was about to...
Je contrôle son esprit. Je me nourris de
Beg him
son
to.
maître. Je m'en délectais jusqu'à ton réveil.
Stop what he was doing. Everything suddenly stopped. His eyes suddenly closed, his mouth too. The veins on his forehead deflated and the trembling completely stopped. Arthur reverted to who he was seconds earlier. At that moment, a migraine hit me with such force that I lost my balance. I literally had the feeling that something...
Laisse-moi Arthur, et je vous laisserai en vie. Irez ensuite me nourrir ailleurs.
was messing with every part of my brain. Then, several questions came to my mind. Strangely, I had no control over it. Should I accept if I refuse? What will happen to me? Is it sacrifice? Arthur could save both our lives. Did I really have a choice? I probably didn't stand a chance against a creature capable of such power. I need to focus on surviving and not risk our lives, including Kyle and Arthur. 2 people to save versus 3 to kill. I have to accept sacrificing Arthur. The migraine stopped immediately after that. Perfect. 3 weeks are enough. Respect that, and I won't eat you. Then the figure disappeared from under the door, and I never saw him again. The rest of this story could have ended heroically. I could have tried to wake the others and show them this entity is here. By our side for years, it manipulates and feeds on them, but reality was different. I was afraid. Arthur started to wither away the very next day, and as I'm telling you all this, he is currently in the hospital. He lost about 30 kilos in just 1 week. He also has many problems, generally affecting his lungs and heart. He's losing his energy and struggling to recover. I know what's going on. What should I do? The creature needs to feed. It's rare that you can actually make a real deal with this kind of monster. I guess so. Who am I to refuse it? At best, she'll feed on Arthur and let me, as well as Kyle, live our lives. At worst, we're trapped and all 3 of us will die. What's the best solution? I took it. I had to seize our only chance of survival. For Kyle and me, what might happen next? It's that it goes hunting for other groups of people. That it tries to infiltrate the brains of other people in order to devour their minds. That's actually why I'm giving you this message. I don't know exactly how this creature selects its targets. All I know is that I managed to break the illusion in one of my dreams. I don't have any other information about it, so be careful. If you ever feel like you're being watched, or you get the impression that there's someone missing at your table, or on the other hand, if you feel like there are a few too many people in a room without being able to explain why, it might be that thing. If that's the case, cross your fingers and pray. So you won't be eaten. Too many people in one room without explanation. Maybe it's that thing. If that's the case, fingers crossed. And pray so you're not his next meal.